Be nonchalant, the most underestimated yet most dangerous trait in a world addicted to noise and reaction, where every voice screams for attention, every emotion is displayed and every move is documented. True power lies in restraint. The man who doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, doesn't reveal his hunger, he is the one they fear. This isn't apathy, it's control, it's composure, it's dominance disguised as disinterest. To be nonchalant is not to care less, but to care selectively, to hide intent, to remain unreadable. Machiavelli knew appearances were weapons. He warned that a ruler must seem calm even when surrounded by chaos. Because once people sense your desperation, they own you. But when they see nothing, no urgency in your eyes, no panic in your words, they are left powerless. What cannot be read cannot be controlled, and what cannot be controlled becomes dangerous. Nonchalant man wields silence like a blade. He speaks with precision, he moves with calculation. He does not rush to fill the air with noise, nor does he expose the full spectrum of his emotions. He is disciplined, he is deliberate. While others react to rumors, slights, and shifting winds, he remains still, not out of passivity, but out of patience, watching, measuring, waiting. His strength is in uncertainty. His mystery unsettles them. Why doesn't he react? Why doesn't he chase? Why doesn't he care? Their questions feed his power. Their confusion becomes his control. Because the moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop reaching, you begin to draw others in. The world gravitates toward mystery, not predictability, toward the unknown. Not the obvious. Machiavelli never endorsed emotional transparency. He taught that the wise ruler conceals his intentions, and nonchalance is the perfect mask. It is not the absence of feeling, it is the mastery of feeling. It is showing nothing while knowing everything, thinking deeply while appearing detached, holding the upper hand while acting as if you don't even notice. That is nonchalance, and when you master it, you control the emotional climate of any room. Others are left guessing what you feel, what you want, what you're planning. You give no tells, no obvious signs, no easy openings. They think they're playing their game, when in truth, they're playing yours. By the time they realize it, they've already exposed themselves. Their cards are on the table. Yours remain hidden. This is psychological warfare. The one who seems to need nothing often controls everything. What you appear to lack. People rush to supply what you seem not to want. They try to give. Your detachment creates pursuit. Your silence creates tension. Your calm creates authority. But don't mistake this calm for natural ease. It's trained. The nonchalant man has practiced patience. He knows how to pause, how to delay, how to watch. He's built distance between emotion and expression. He doesn't confuse urgency with action, nor visibility with influence. He moves only when it matters, and when he moves, the world pays attention. Respect cannot be begged for, attention cannot be pleaded into existence. The man in control never appears desperate. Even when he feels deeply, he reveals it slowly, with precision. Because emotion is currency, and he spends it wisely. The world respects what it cannot predict, what it cannot fully understand, what it cannot dominate. That's why the nonchalant man becomes a symbol of resistance. He is discipline in an age of impulse. He is the ghost in the crowded room, unreadable, untouchable, but fully aware in a world that screams to be noticed. The one who speaks least often commands the most. If this reshapes how you see confidence, share your thoughts below. Tell me how nonchalance has played out in your life. And if you want to go deeper into the minds of history's most disciplined thinkers, my book, Guided by the Greats, A Path to Self-Growth, is linked in the pinned comment and description now. Let's go further. Nonchalance isn't arrogance, it's clarity. The man who sees clearly doesn't need to react. He has already calculated the outcome. He has already chosen what to control and dismissed what he cannot. There is no inner storm to betray, so his outer world stays calm. That is what makes him untouchable. Not that he feels nothing, but that he refuses to be seen flinching. Most people broadcast their insecurities. They apologize before they speak. They laugh too loudly. They overshare. They beg for validation before they've earned it. The nonchalant man is different. He doesn't look around for eyes. He doesn't shapeshift for approval. He walks with quiet certainty. revealing nothing. Yet seeing everything, he stands as though he belongs, because he already decided that he does. That composure unsettles the frantic. It exposes the insecure, while others scramble to prove themselves. He proves nothing. He simply is, and in a world addicted to noise, attention, and drama, the man who refuses to be shaken becomes impossible to ignore. Machiavelli wrote that it is not enough to be strong, one must appear strong. In the same way, it is not enough to feel composed, you must appear unmoved because appearance becomes reality. If others believe you are in control, they will treat you as if you are. If they believe you are unaffected, they begin to doubt themselves by mastering your own expression. You master their perception. Nonchalance isn't a mask you wear, nor an act for approval. It's the product of a mind that no longer chases what doesn't matter. It's the reward for mastering your impulses, breaking your addiction to attention, and understanding that urgency is often the enemy of power. The man who acts in haste forfeits the throne. The man who moves slowly, who speaks sparingly, who waits, he begins to rule. There is energy in restraint, a quiet authority that comes from saying less, reacting less, revealing less. Each time you hold back an emotional response, you claim ownership over yourself. Each time you let someone else expose their motives while you remain still, you gain insight, and insight is the true currency of power. Some will call it cold, some will call it distant, but the nonchalant man is unmoved by misunderstanding. He is not here to be liked. He is here to win, and winning, in the Machiavellian sense, isn't about having more. It's about lasting longer, moving smarter, striking sharper. Do not mistake nonchalance for passivity. It is not weakness, it is patience with teeth. Focused detachment, a discipline few can master. It says, I am not threatened by what you do, I feel no need to prove myself. I am not afraid to let silence speak for me in every room. There is one man who doesn't compete, he doesn't jump into every argument, he doesn't chase every opportunity. He doesn't speak unless his words outweigh the silence they replace. That man owns the room because his energy is rare, his presence doesn't beg, it commands. You may feel the urge to be loud, to constantly assert yourself, to fill the air with sound. But true confidence doesn't need the world's permission. It doesn't need to be performed. It carries itself quietly. And when that kind of quiet walks into a room, everyone notices. Nonchalance is often mistaken for arrogance, but it isn't built on ego. It's built on mastery. The mastery of timing, of presence, of restraint. It is the art of feeling everything yet showing nothing, to be fully engaged while appearing perfectly detached. And that illusion, and the illusion of not needing anything, creates gravity. People move toward it. People move toward what moves away. They chase what ignores them. They submit to what does not. Like, this is the paradox of power. The less you reveal, the more people imagine. The less you pursue, the more they chase. The less you speak, the heavier your words become. The nonchalant man is not silent because he has nothing to say. He is silent because most things are not worth saying. He doesn't waste presence. He doesn't dilute himself by being everywhere. All the time he waits. He appears when it counts. And when he does, the room listens. Machiavelli warned that the appearance of virtue is more useful than virtue itself. Likewise, the appearance of indifference is more powerful than being truly indifferent. A man who feels nothing is numb, and numbness is weakness. But the man who feels everything and filters it with discipline, he is untouchable. He can sit across from chaos, insult, or temptation and still choose silence. You do not owe anyone your emotion. You do not owe the world your vulnerability. To be nonchalant is to declare, I decide what matters. I decide what enters my world. I decide when to speak and when to remain still. That is the root of confidence. Not loudness, not confrontation, but the refusal to be moved except on your terms. Watch how silence creates panic. Watch how people scramble to fill it. How they confess too much, try too hard, give away their hand, simply because they cannot stand not knowing what you're thinking. That is leverage. You reveal nothing, and in return they reveal everything. Understand, this is not a game. It is control of space, emotional space, psychological space. If someone angers you and you stay calm, They lose control if they insult you and you remain unmoved. They become uncomfortable if they resist you and you do not chase. They begin to doubt themselves. Power is not built through constant domination, it is built through discipline. The man who does not flinch has trained his stillness. He has faced fear in private, burned through weakness, and silence learned the difference between reaction and response. Reaction is cheap. Response is rare. Reaction is instinct. Response is strategy. The nonchalant man lives in response. He knows what he wants, but he is never desperate. He knows who he is. So he does not perform. He knows what he brings. So he does not sell himself. His certainty radiates, felt, not advertised, seen, not explained. To walk this path, you must learn to sit with misunderstanding, to hold your expression when others misjudge you, to delay gratification when attention is within reach, to keep your plans to yourself when your ego craves applause. That is the cost of power, the price of poise, the discipline of nonchalance. There will be moments when silence feels like weakness, when walking away feels like losing. But remember this, most people are ruled by impulse. They act quickly, emotionally, loudly, and it is that noise that buries them. That noise makes them predictable, vulnerable, replaceable. The nonchalant man is never forgotten, because in a world addicted to stimulation, his calm is rare. His stillness feels unnatural. His restraint feels dominant. People don't forget how you made them feel, and being around someone who does not react, who does not chase, who does not need, creates unease, curiosity, even fascination. This is how you shift the frame, not by forcing it, not by convincing anyone, but by becoming the standard, a presence that doesn't seek validation, a mind that doesn't blink, a spirit that waits, watches and only acts when the outcome is already decided. There is a reason true leaders speak last, a reason the strongest men don't shout. When you are truly powerful, silence itself becomes a weapon. You don't rush into debates, you don't insert yourself into every conversation. You let others burn themselves out trying to be noticed. And when the noise collapses, when the dust settles, you remain calm, clear, unshaken. The nonchalant man is not rushed by time, nor swayed by popularity. He knows the world is frantic by nature. People are insecure, reactive, chasing trends, applause, and attention. But when you rise above that rush, when you appear immune, you become magnetic. You stand out, not by demanding attention, but by mastering your presence. Machiavelli understood this balance. He wrote that a ruler must be feared more than loved, but not hated. Nonchalance walks that line perfectly. It commands respect without begging for affection. It holds power without needing noise. Because power built on mystery endures longer than power built on volume. When you speak, your words weigh more, not because they're louder, but because they're rare. When you act, your movements hit harder, not because they're grand, but because they're deliberate. The nonchalant man wastes nothing. Every gesture, every word, every moment of attention is measured, and that makes his presence feel sacred. People crave certainty. They look for anchors, for stability, for someone who cannot be shaken. The nonchalant man provides it, not by explaining himself, not by justifying, not by oversharing, but by standing still. His silence echoes louder than arguments. His composure steadies others even when they don't understand why. You must learn to be the eye of the storm, the calm center in a chaotic world, not by pretending to be above it, but by mastering your own reactions. Every time you resist the urge to respond, you gain control. Every time you walk away without explaining, you grow stronger. Most people are slaves to emotion. They follow every impulse, but the nonchalant man rules his instincts. And that is why he commands the room, because he first commands himself, even in relationships. Nonchalance is power, not the cold shoulder, not manipulation, but sovereignty. The ability to care without clinging, to love without losing yourself, to be fully present without being fully exposed. When you hold your center, you create polarity, tension, depth, and in that space, others are drawn closer. Not because you pursue them, but because you don't. There is a beauty in not needing, in being whole before anyone arrives, in refusing to perform softness just to be accepted. The nonchalant man is not unkind, he is unshaken. His peace is not a tactic, it is a state of being earned through trials, through loss, through battles fought in silence. That inner victory cannot be stolen. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors the bold, but boldness does not always roar. Sometimes boldness is restraint, the refusal to be provoked, the refusal to be baited, the refusal to descend to the level of those desperate to drag you down. That kind of refusal is one of the boldest things a man can practice. The world will test your calm. It will insult you, dismiss you, misunderstand you. It will push you to react, to explain, to prove. But the test is never about how loud you can fight. The test is whether you can walk forward, silent, steady, unshaken eyes ahead, shoulders firm, intent focused. That is what makes you rare. That is what makes you remembered. Not the noise you make, but the calm you keep, not the approval you chase, but the gravity you carry. Nonchalance is not an accident. It is forged, built with patience, shaped through pain, strengthened with purpose, because true power is quiet, real. Power moves without sound. It doesn't explain, it doesn't beg, it doesn't chase, it simply exists. Immovable, deliberate, undeniable. That is the essence of nonchalance. Not pretending not to care, but being so rooted in self-mastery that the world cannot shake you. Is not the absence of emotion, it is the presence of control. The ability to hold tension without breaking, to hear insult, without reacting, to feel pressure without rushing. The nonchalant man is not empty of feeling, he is overflowing with discipline. And discipline is the highest form of self-respect. Understand this. Nonchalance is earned. We are not born with it. We are born impulsive, hungry for approval, desperate to be understood. But the man who trains himself to rise above those urges, to wait, to watch, to remain composed, becomes untouchable. Not because the world stops testing him, but because he stops flinching. Machiavelli understood the theater of power. He knew perception shapes influence. If you appear desperate, you will be treated as desperate. Who has mastered himself so completely that nothing external can dictate his internal state. That is the highest form of freedom. When your mood is not owned by circumstance, when your worth is not determined by attention, when your movement is not dictated by provocation. Most men chase control over others. The nonchalant man has already won the greater war, control over himself, and because of that, others bend naturally around him. They orbit his steadiness, they lean toward his gravity. Understand this. Nonchalance is not passive. It is not laziness. It is a sharpened edge, concealed beneath composure. It is the discipline to choose silence over argument, patience over impulse, detachment over desperation. It is the art of presence without performance. The world will always test you. It will always try to shake you. But when you remain unmoved, you become more than respected. You become inevitable. That is the essence of nonchalance. Not weakness, not coldness, but sovereignty, because sovereignty is the final form of power. Anyone can dominate for a moment with aggression, with noise, with spectacle, but only the sovereign man dominates over time. His control does not fade when the crowd leaves. His presence does not weaken when the stage is gone. His power follows him into silence, into solitude, into the shadows where no one is watching. That is the true test. What are you when there is no audience? The impulsive man crumbles in private. He needs witnesses to feel strong. He needs reactions to feel alive. But the nonchalant man is steady in the dark. His discipline is not a show. His restraint is not an act. It is his nature, carved into him by repetition, by trial, by fire, and this is why he cannot be replaced. Charisma fades, charm is forgotten, but sovereignty imprints itself into memory. People don't just see it, they feel it. They feel the weight of someone who is not swayed by praise, not broken by insult, not moved by threat, and they respect it, even if they envy it. Even if they fear it. Understand, power is not about appearing untouchable. It is about becoming untouchable. Not through arrogance, not through masks, but through self-mastery. The man who has mastered himself is immune to manipulation. You cannot bribe him with approval. You cannot threaten him with rejection. You cannot bait him into chaos. He has already decided who he is, and nothing external can rewrite it. This is why nonchalance is dangerous, not because it is cold, but because it is unyielding. The world is built on reaction, and when you refuse to react, you break the system. You force people to play by your rhythm, on your terms, at your pace. That is why silence is feared. That is why restraint is rare. That is why the nonchalant man always stands taller. Even when he barely moves, he does not compete. He does not chase. He does not explain. He simply is. And in a world addicted to noise, that being is louder than any scream. The sovereign man understands that nonchalance is not passive. It is active discipline. It is vigilance disguised as calm. To the untrained eye, he seems effortless, but beneath that stillness is calculation. Every pause is intentional. Every silence is chosen. Every delay is a form of control. The impatient reveal themselves first. They speak too soon. They show too much. They collapse under the weight of their own impulses. But the nonchalant man waits. He lets impatience eat others alive while he stands steady when they are exhausted, when their emotions betray them, when they have scattered their energy in all directions. He is still whole, and at that moment his movement, small, precise, deliberate, shifts everything. This is why timing is everything. The nonchalant man never moves on impulse. He does not rush to prove himself. He does not hurry to defend his name. He acts when it matters, not when he is provoked. That patience is what makes his actions feel heavier, because they are not scattered gestures. They are concentrated, strikes, and one precise move outweighs 100 frantic ones. But make no mistake, this composure must be earned. It cannot be faked for long. Pretending to be calm while boiling inside only reveals itself in cracks. Your tone, your posture, your eyes. The sovereign calm is built slowly. It is the result of training the mind to sit with discomfort, to face rejection, to endure insult, to watch chaos without needing to control it. That training hardens the spirit. It creates a man who does not flinch, and this man becomes magnetic, not because he tries to attract, but because he does not. In relationships, in business, in influence, people lean toward what does not lean toward them. They chase what does not chase them. They invest in what seems scarce. Your restraint creates demand. Your silence creates value. Your composure creates trust. The truth is, most men spend their lives leaking power. They give it away with every overreaction, every desperate word, every nervous laugh. They bleed themselves dry, begging to be understood. The nonchalant man bleeds nothing. He preserves himself. He protects his energy like a fortress. And that preservation makes him unshakable, untouchable, unforgettable. The lesson is clear. Do not seek to be everywhere. Do not seek to be everything. Seek instead to be sovereign. Seek to be the man who could speak, but waits who could react, but pauses who could chase, but walks away. For in that discipline lies the rarest kind of strength, the strength that does not fade when the room empties, the strength that remains when the noise has died, the strength that endures because it was never built on approval in the first place. Nonchalance is not for the untested. It demands you walk through fire without screaming, that you endure storms without announcing the rain. It demands you master your impulses in private, long before you are tested in public, because the world does not reward noise. It rewards control. Think of history's great rulers, thinkers, generals. Rarely were they the loudest in the room. Rarely were they the ones demanding recognition. Their strength lay in their ability to withhold, to watch, to wait when others collapsed under their own urgency. They stood calm, and in that calmness, power accumulated. Understand this. People fear what they cannot read. They fear what they cannot predict. And when your emotions are hidden, when your movements are rare, when your words are measured, you become unreadable. The unknown is always more powerful than the familiar. The mask of nonchalance is not deception, it is protection. It shields your intentions until the moment you decide to reveal them. But remember, nonchalance is not apathy. Apathy is weakness, disguised as calm. Apathy is emptiness. Nonchalance is fullness under control. It is emotion refined, energy contained, power disciplined. You are not detached because you feel nothing. You are composed because you feel deeply and yet remain unshaken. That is the difference between the numb and the sovereign. When insulted, the numb man shrugs because he does not care. The nonchalant man remains still because he chooses not to care. The first is absence. The second is presence under mastery, and mastery is always respected. Every time you withhold a reaction, you gain ground every time you choose silence over noise. You grow heavier every time you delay gratification. You sharpen your edge. The world may call it indifference, but you know it for what it is. Strategy, because in the theater of life, power belongs to the one who can hold the longest pause. Noise is easy, stillness is rare, and the rare is always remembered. Nonchalance is influence in its purest form, influence without begging. Leadership without force. In relationships, it creates polarity. People are drawn not because you demand them, but because you do not. They lean closer because you are not leaning at all. They reveal themselves because your silence compels them to. This is not manipulation. It is magnetism. The truth is, people cannot resist what resists them. They cannot ignore what ignores them. They cannot walk away from what does not chase. Nonchalance is the art of becoming the fixed point around which others orbit. You do not have to move. They will move around you in leadership. This presence becomes law. A leader who panics infects his people with fear. A leader who reacts too quickly reveals weakness. But a leader who remains still under pressure, who weighs his words, who lets others argue themselves into exhaustion, he becomes a pillar. And people follow pillars. They trust anchors. They seek the calm eye of the storm. Machiavelli understood this. He taught that fear is more reliable than love. But he also knew that hatred destroys rulers faster than any army. Nonchalance balances this edge. It inspires respect without cruelty. It draws loyalty without demanding it. Because when you command yourself, others want to be commanded by you. But here is the truth few admit. Nonchalance is hard. It is unnatural. The world trains you to react, to prove, to chase approval from childhood. You are taught to raise your hand, to answer quickly, to defend yourself when accused. Nonchalance unlearns this conditioning. It replaces reaction with choice. It teaches you that silence can be louder than protest. That absence can carry more power than presence. This training is not comfortable. It requires sacrifice. You will be misunderstood. You will be called arrogant, cold, distant. Let them. The price of power is misinterpretation. You do not exist to be understood. You exist to be unshaken over time. Your stillness becomes your weapon. Others will talk themselves into corners. They will confess what you never asked. They will reveal their weaknesses trying to break yours. And in their noise, you will hear the truth they did not mean to give. That is the hidden gift of nonchalance. Clarity. While they scramble to express, you sit in silence and collect information, and information is advantage. The world believes the loud win, but history proves otherwise. It is the quiet strategist, the patient player, the composed sovereign who writes the final script. And he does so not by shouting, but by waiting, not by chasing, but by holding, not by demanding, but by deserving. This is the essence of nonchalance. Not emptiness, not laziness, but the rare discipline of being still when the world expects you to break. Nonchalance is timing, the discipline to wait until the moment is ripe. Most men waste their strength in premature action, improving themselves before the stage is even set. But the nonchalant man knows that one move, made at the perfect time, outweighs 100 made in haste. He does not interrupt. He lets silence stretch until the weight of it bends the room in his favor. He does not rush decisions. He waits until the fog clears, until the opponent reveals too much, until the field tilts. Then, and only then, he moves. And when he does, it feels inevitable, as if everything before was simply preparation for that single act. Perception is the stage where this discipline plays out. People do not see your thoughts. They see your composure. They do not feel your chaos. They feel your stillness. They judge not by what you are, but by what you show. This is why nonchalance matters. Appear calm, and the world believes you are calm. Appear unmoved, and the world begins to move around you appear sovereign. And the world bows, because perception is reality to most legacy too, is shaped by restraint. The loudest voices fade quickest. The ones who burn bright with impulse are remembered for a moment, then replaced by the next flame. But the men who built empires, who altered history, who left their mark, were not those who shouted loudest. They were the ones who endured, who stood firm when others collapsed, who remained clear when others were clouded. To be nonchalant is to think in centuries, not seconds to measure your steps not by applause, but by permanence. You do not seek to win arguments. You seek to win eras, and you do so not by scattering energy in every direction, but by holding it close, releasing it only when it carves something permanent. This is why the nonchalant man is unforgettable, because in a world that overreacts, he endures. In a world that overshares, he withholds. In a world that overspeaks, he listens, and in the contrast between his stillness and their noise, his presence becomes immortal.